Hai-Su's life had truly been tragic. At just 20 years old, she became a single mother. Her husband died in an accident, leaving behind enormous debts instead of protection. With her young daughter Eun-sung, Hai-Su lived a life of constant hiding. To survive, she took on grueling part-time jobs, pushing herself far beyond her limits. One day, on her way home from work, an accident happened. Hai-Su regained consciousness soon after, but the doctor delivered devastating news: she had a brain tumor. Her life had officially entered a countdown. The sudden diagnosis left her in a daze. As she looked at a little girl who had fallen in front of her, her heart clenched with fear. If she died, what would happen to Eun-sung? Overwhelmed with despair, Hai-Su wondered why fate was so cruel to her. She tried calling friends to borrow money, but no one was willing to help given her circumstances. In her panic, she even lost sight of her daughter by the roadside. When she finally came to her senses, Eun-sung was gone. Hai-Su searched frantically, nearly losing her mind, until she found Eun-sung standing exactly where she had been told to wait. Hai-Su ran to her and hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face. With so little time left, she didn't know how to go on. When she returned home, she found debt collectors blocking her door. With no choice left, she took Eun-sung to the restaurant where she worked, just to get through the night. There, she unexpectedly saw the man who had once hit her with his car. Just as she was about to greet him, she overheard his conversation. Ji-hoon's mother had been diagnosed with liver cancer and had only 3 months left to live. Her only wish was to see her son married. To fulfill that wish and secure a liver transplant, Ji-hoon was looking for a woman to enter a contract marriage with him. No matter the cost, even 100 million or 200 million won, he was willing to pay. The restaurant manager thought Ji-hoon was insane. But Hai-Su's heart began to race. 100 million. 200 million. That money could erase her debts and give her daughter a stable future. In her panic, she accidentally made a noise. Ji-hoon and the manager rushed out. Crushed by reality and driven by her love for Eun-sung, Hai-Su blurted out her willingness to accept the proposal. No one expected a wealthy heir to make such an offer, or for Hai-Su to accept it. Everything traced back to a banquet held for the opening of Ji-hoon's restaurant. His family was celebrating when a woman suddenly appeared. At first, everyone assumed she was the eldest son's girlfriend, Nayu. But the woman introduced herself as the chairman's wife. The atmosphere froze. Outside, a drunken woman was making a scene. When Ji-hoon appeared, she called out to him happily. That was when the truth surfaced. Ji-hoon was the chairman's illegitimate son. Ji-hoon tried to take his mother home, but she became emotional from the alcohol. At the same time, the eldest son arrived to greet Na-yoon. Yet Na-yoon's eyes never left Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon hadn't expected to reunite with his former lover under such circumstances. Years ago, on their 100th day together, he had given her a gift, only to tell her it was a breakup present before walking away without hesitation. Seeing her again brought back painful memories, and Ji-hoon hurriedly took his mother away. After being abandoned, Ji-hoon's mother had barely survived, her health worsening day by day. When she was diagnosed with liver cancer and given only 3 months to live, doctors confirmed there was no matching donor, not even Ji-hoon himself. With no other options, Ji-hoon chose the desperate path of a contract marriage to save her life, no matter the cost. Hai-Su initially thought the idea was madness. She rushed home with Eun-sung, but the numbers echoed endlessly in her mind. 100 million, 200 million. With so little time left for herself, what would happen to her daughter? At an age when most people were enjoying youth and freedom, Hai-Su was crushed by unimaginable suffering. She cared for her young child while carrying her late husband's massive debts, drifting from place to place. Just when she finally found a job, debt collectors ruined everything, storming the restaurant and smashing things. Unable to stay, Hai-Su resigned and handed over her last remaining money as compensation. Ji-hoon hadn't expected this. Seeing Hai-Su, already drowning in debt, still act with dignity made him truly notice her. With nowhere else to go, Hai-Su and Eun-sung stayed at a friend's house. To repay debts, Hai-Su worked endlessly, but the meager income barely sustained the two of them. She was on the verge of collapse. The next day, while eating with a friend, Hai-soo suddenly broke down in tears. She was only human, just a woman trying to survive. At 20 years old, a girl should have been chasing dreams and enjoying youth. Yet a single marriage ritual had destroyed Hai-soo's life and dragged her daughter into endless suffering. As if fate were deliberately targeting her, the doctor soon delivered even worse news. Her brain tumor was rapidly worsening and required immediate treatment. But she had no money and no one to rely on. How could she possibly afford treatment? That night, Hai-soo sat alone in a corner, flipping through photos of Eun-sung. She covered her mouth and cried silently. With no other choice left, she went back to Ji-hoon. She agreed to the contract marriage and to donate part of her liver to Ji-hoon's mother. Her only condition was money, enough to ensure Eun-sung could grow up safely. Hai-soo didn't expect luxury. She only wanted her daughter to live without worry while she was still alive. Ji-hoon explained that they would need to pass a hospital interview. Only then could Hai-soo donate as his legal daughter-in-law. Once the surgery was completed, the marriage would be immediately dissolved. Everything would be strictly transactional, and no one could know the truth. Hai-soo agreed. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon's mother knew nothing. Believing her days were numbered, she asked to be discharged so she could prepare her affairs. Ji-hoon forced a smile and told her to eat well so she'd have strength for surgery. Confused, she asked whether there wasn't already no suitable liver. Ji-hoon avoided the question, only saying he had taken care of everything. To prepare for hospital inspections, Ji-hoon and Hai-soo fabricated a marriage registration and adjusted dates to make it appear they had married a year earlier. Afraid Hai-soo might disappear, Ji-hoon arranged for her to stay in a room at his restaurant. Embarrassed, Hai-soo pointed to a small storage room and said she could sleep there instead. To make the act convincing, the two carefully went through each other's pasts, rehearsing their story, pretending they had been in love for 2 years. One day, loud noises interrupted Ji-hoon while he was speaking with his staff. He angrily opened the door and scolded the troublemaker, only to realize it was Eun-sung. Already disliking Ji-hoon, the little girl deliberately sprayed him with a hose and even provoked him afterward. Ji-hoon sternly warned Hai-soo to control her child and bluntly asked if she was foolish. Soon after, a nurse casually told Ji-hoon's mother that her daughter-in-law was truly admirable for agreeing to donate her liver. The mother was stunned. She immediately called Ji-hoon, forcing him to admit that he was married. Sensing something was wrong, Ji-hoon's mother pretended she couldn't find her phone and asked a nurse for Hai-soo's number. She then called and demanded Hai-soo come see her. This mother-in-law was cruel beyond words. She had never helped Hai-soo care for Eun-sung. She even returned photos of Hai-soo's late husband and warned her never to visit his memorial again. Hai-soo was deeply hurt. The woman continued coldly, saying that she once felt sympathy for Hai-soo's hard life, but hearing she was getting married made her feel her son was being wronged. How could someone like her dare to remarry? Facing the accusations, Hai-soo was full of grievance, yet she didn't blame her. She tried to explain, but the woman shook her off and shoved her to the ground. Looking down at her, she mocked her cruelly before walking away. Hai-soo stared at her retreating back, heartbroken. She didn't even react to her own injuries. Watching from nearby, Ji-hoon could no longer stay silent. At that moment he finally realized, no one had ever truly stood up for Hai-soo. At that time, there was no one in her heart. Yet somehow, she still couldn't help feeling shaken. On the way back, Kang Hai-soo told Han Ji-hoon that the surgery date had been set. Ji-hoon asked if she would regret it. Hai-soo replied that the worries weighing on her heart could finally be put to rest. Looking at the foolish girl in front of him, Ji-hoon felt a deep ache. He asked why she was always so conflicted and angry. Perhaps Hai-soo truly began to develop feelings. It was no longer just gratitude or dependence. Ji-hoon felt an overwhelming urge to protect her. Hai-soo was at the hospital caring for Ji-hoon's mother, when a doctor walked in and said enviously that the daughter-in-law came very often. Ji-hoon's mother smiled slightly, but in the next second, everyone froze. Ji-hoon immediately stepped forward. His mother cleverly found an excuse to send the doctor away, explaining that Hai-soo was a hired caregiver, and that because they were close, the doctors were only joking. Chairman Han did not pursue the matter. After learning of the illness, He showed no concern and instead accused her of pretending to be sick to gain sympathy. This angered Ji-hoon's mother deeply. That night, Chairman Han summoned Han Ji-hoon and questioned him about the woman. With no choice, Ji-hoon admitted she was his girlfriend. Chairman Han laughed happily and said to bring her the next day so he could meet her. Hai-soo was taken shopping. She finally saw how rich people shopped. They bought things without even checking the price. When she saw the price tags, she was stunned. Everything was for the dinner where she would meet the chairman. After getting dressed up, Ji-hoon was satisfied, though he personally felt she looked better without makeup. At the dinner table, Chairman Han asked what she liked about his son, saying Ji-hoon was known for being cold and ruthless. Hai-soo replied that she believed the coldness was only a disguise. She said that deep down, he was gentle and kind, but had never met someone who truly understood him. Ji-hoon was extremely happy hearing this. However, the good times did not last long. Before long, Chairman Han investigated everything. The chairman couldn't believe that his son had gone to help someone fix a light bulb and was even treating another woman's child like his own. Ji-hoon had just taken Hai-soo and Eun-sung upstairs to look at a kitten when the chairman suddenly showed up. Seeing his son gently coaxing the child, he stormed over and slapped Ji-hoon hard across the face. The child was so frightened that she immediately threw herself into her mother's arms. The chairman forced Ji-hoon to divorce Hai-soo, threatening that if he refused, he would report her for illegal organ trading. He also deliberately postponed the surgery. Ji-hoon confronted his father, demanding to know why he would do something so cruel, why he couldn't even allow his own mother a chance to live. Ji-hoon begged his father to stop, but the chairman coldly disowned him. Once his father intervened, everything slipped beyond Ji-hoon's control. Feeling utterly powerless, Ji-hoon sank into despair. Not long after, the chairman summoned Hai-soo and threatened her directly. He demanded that she divorce Ji-hoon and return the money, otherwise the surgery would never happen. When Hai-soo learned that the surgery had been cancelled, she desperately begged the chairman to reconsider, but he remained completely unmoved. On the bus ride home, Ji-hoon's mother called. Overwhelmed with emotion, Hai-soo hurried off the bus. Only then did she realize she had left her phone behind. She searched the entire bus terminal but couldn't find it. The driver scolded her for being careless. Thinking about her misfortune, being so young yet terminally ill, and finally having a chance to earn money for her daughter, Hai-soo broke down. She cursed the cruelty of fate, collapsed onto the ground, and cried uncontrollably. When Ji-hoon found out that Hai-soo had gone to see his father, he searched for her everywhere but couldn't find her. Just as he sat in despair, staring blankly ahead, Hai-soo appeared, lost and empty. Ji-hoon didn't hesitate for a second. He ran straight toward her and pulled the fragile woman tightly into his arms. To ensure her mother's surgery could proceed smoothly, Ji-hoon had agreed to divorce Hai-soo and reunite with his ex-girlfriend Na-yoon. Seeing this unfold, Hai-soo's heart ached. The cruelest distance in the world, she thought, was when two people who truly loved each other could not be together. Finally, the day of the surgery arrived. Hai-soo rushed to the hospital, only to discover that Ji-hoon's mother was nowhere to be found. Ji-hoon, just finishing a meeting, received a call from his mother. She told him she had decided not to go through with the surgery. Determined not to burden her son, she chose to abandon hope for life and planned to live out her remaining days on her own terms. Ji-hoon was frantic. He went to his mother's former residence and stared at a faded photo of them together, recalling her words from the past. To fulfill his mother's wish, Ji-hoon found Hai-soo, and together they went to see her mother. At first, his mother refused to see them, insisting they leave her to live her final days alone. But slowly, her heart began to soften, melted by Eun-sung's innocence and warmth. One day, while shopping, Hai-soo accidentally dropped some snacks. Her hands trembled violently, and she realized her illness was worsening. Just then, Ji-hoon appeared. Gently, he wiped the makeup from her face, and they spent the afternoon chasing each other under the setting sun, sharing a fleeting, beautiful moment together. That evening, the three of them took a family photo. Ji-hoon's mother thanked her son for helping her fulfill her wish, but she remained steadfast. She would return for the surgery. Ji-hoon was heartbroken but ultimately decided to respect her decision. He went to Hae-soo to explain, reassuring her that the money for the contract would be transferred soon and that she should not worry. Hae-soo was reluctant to leave, and as they shook hands in a final farewell, both understood the depth of their feelings. Though it was only a marriage of convenience, Ji-hoon had brought light and warmth to Hae-soo's darkest days. Early the next morning, Hae-soo left with Eun-sung. Ji-hoon hurried after them but could not catch up, only managing to watch their figures disappear into the distance. Hae-soo looked at her trembling hands, struggling to contain the love she felt for him. At the hospital, she learned that her condition was deteriorating and that her chances of survival were slim. She begged the doctors desperately, but they could do nothing. She ignored Ji-hoon's messages and refused his calls. Out of love, she did not want to burden him. Ji-hoon, helpless, could only drown his sorrow in alcohol, longing to be with Hae-soo. Ji-hoon's assets had been frozen by the chairman. To pay for the marriage contract's settlement, she had no choice but to sell his car and valuables. Even so, he did not want to divorce Hae-soo. He wanted to continue his life with her. Hae-soo approached the chairman, pleading for him to cover the settlement, but he laughed heartlessly, amused that she was just as he had expected. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon waited anxiously at the restaurant. When Hae-soo arrived, he was like a child with joy. He offered her the ring and the settlement money he had prepared, but she refused. Hae-soo explained that his father had already given her the money and that she no longer needed him. She asked him to divorce her. Ji-hoon was stunned, but she wanted to hear him clearly one last time. Her words pierced his heart. Shortly after, Hae-soo began her treatment, and the side effects started to emerge. The illness itself was not terrifying, but Ji-hoon's desperate efforts to make amends for her suffering, to keep her by his side, and his willingness to give her anything she wanted, were both heartbreaking and overwhelming. Looking at the man who loved her so deeply, Hae-soo's heart ached. Still, she spoke, knowing she had to face reality. In the end, Hae-soo still refused. Ji-hoon crouched down in anguish, struggling to breathe, his anger and helplessness mingling into silent despair. She was both a blessing and a trial in his life. As Hae-soo's condition worsened, she began experiencing sudden fainting, dizziness, and unexpected symptoms. Just moments ago, in a daze, she had collapsed. Luckily, Ji-hoon arrived in time. Ji-hoon, overwhelmed with relief and guilt, realized how fragile their time together was. Hae-soo's love for him was evident, yet she had continuously pushed him away. That day, Ji-hoon received a call from Hae-soo, but the voice on the line was not hers. It turned out that she had left her bag and phone at the hospital, which a kind stranger had found. When Ji-hoon retrieved it, he discovered a package of medication inside. Out of curiosity, he asked the doctor about it, only to be met with a stern rebuke. Only then did Ji-hoon understand why Hae-soo had refused his help. Her 5-year survival rate was under 30%. She had been carrying such immense suffering alone, and he had been completely unaware. The realization of his past carelessness filled Ji-hoon with self-loathing and regret. Hae-soo's condition continued to deteriorate, yet she tried to hide it. To avoid drawing attention, she cut her long hair, a symbolic act of defiance and control over her dwindling time. On the day they were scheduled to go to the courthouse, Ji-hoon saw her short hair and immediately understood why. Hae-soo deliberately drew him out to lunch, buying precious moments together, wanting him to feel her presence, to feel her love in every gesture. She only wished to guard the time she had left with him. Despite this, they proceeded to sign the divorce papers. But in the next moment, Hae-soo ripped the documents to shreds. She confronted Ji-hoon, asking why he had let it come to this. She could not let go of him. She could not forget the depth of her feelings. Tears streamed down her face as she begged Ji-hoon to divorce her for her own sake, yet he could not bear to release her. He held her tightly in his arms, promising that from that moment on, he would be by her side no matter what. Later that day, Hae-soo completed her treatment alone, exhausted, slumping into a chair. Just then, Ji-hoon appeared, watching her fragile, pale form with fierce concern. He insisted she eat, even if only a little, to maintain her strength. He had saved his number on her phone as a speed dial, and with a gentle voice, he told her, no matter when, where, Or what happens if you need me, I will come immediately. I will stay by your side for the rest of my life. From that day forward, wherever Hae-soo went, Ji-hoon would follow, terrified that any accident might befall her again. Yet Hae-soo, determined to protect him from her suffering, forced him to leave, hiding her own pain and trying to maintain control over her dwindling life. Hae-soo tightly clutched her head, the sharp, relentless pain nearly unbearable. She summoned every ounce of strength to call Ji-hoon, determined to finally speak the worries and fears she had kept hidden. Seeing her in such pain, Ji-hoon's tears fell freely as he drove straight to her side, desperate to hear her voice and reassure her in person. At that moment, the two of them opened their hearts completely, embracing each other tightly, knowing that nothing could separate them again. The next morning, Hae-soo was awakened by happiness itself. Ji-hoon had prepared a table full of breakfast, each dish infused with love. Her heart swelled with sweetness, and she lowered her head shyly. Ji-hoon slipped a ring onto her finger, sealing their promise of love despite the looming shadow of her illness. But their happiness was soon threatened. News broke out at Ji-hoon's company that his reputation and authority were under attack, and the culprit was none other than his own brother, scheming for the family fortune. The battle for the Cha family inheritance was ruthless. Ji-hoon's position and even his life could have been destroyed. To protect him, his father pressured Hae-soo to sign an agreement claiming she orchestrated the plot. Fortunately, she had not donated her liver to Ji-hoon's mother, which gave her a bargaining point. Ji-hoon, upon learning the truth, reassured her not to worry, but Hae-soo, thinking carefully, knew there was only one way to fully remove Ji-hoon from danger. She confronted his father, returned all the money previously given to her, and without hesitation, signed the humiliating agreement taking full blame. Later, Ji-hoon stormed into the boardroom during the family meeting, publicly admitting that he alone had orchestrated everything and resigning from all his positions in the company. Hae-soo felt an immense sense of relief. Finally, nothing could keep them apart. But their joy was short-lived. The doctors informed Ji-hoon that Hae-soo's condition had worsened dramatically and the hospital could do no more. Ji-hoon stepped outside, masking his grief with a forced smile, determined to make the remaining time they had together full of happiness. He took her to eat her favorite foods, picked up Eun-sung from school, and even went house hunting, determined to give her a warm and loving home for whatever time remained. Every moment, every second was precious. Hae-soo, wanting to return the love she received, decided to prepare a lavish dinner for Ji-hoon. But suddenly, the reality of her limited time pressed down on her, and her greatest worry was for her daughter. She longed for Ji-hoon to take care of Eun-sung after she was gone, but the thought was unbearably painful. Slowly, Hae-soo's health began to fluctuate, her strength and appetite diminishing. One day, Ji-hoon planned a surprise for her. He decorated the room with balloons and flowers, intending to propose. But tragedy struck. Rushing to the hospital, Ji-hoon was informed that Hae-soo was in critical condition, her life in immediate danger, and consent for emergency surgery was required. The suddenness of it all shocked them both, but fortunately, the surgery was successful. The doctors warned that such emergencies could happen at any time. After her discharge, Hae-soo put on a beautiful makeup and decided to meet her friends, cherishing what might be her final gathering. Though she felt unwell, she hid her suffering, wanting her friends to remember her happiness rather than her illness. Everyone around her rejoiced, thinking she had found a happy conclusion, but inside, Hae-soo felt a deep sadness. Many of her wishes remained unfulfilled, and time was slipping away. She held on to life tightly, savoring every encounter, every smile, every touch.